Hey gang, I thought I would compare and contrast two of the most popular budget guitars by Squier. The Squier Affinity Telecaster and the Squier Classic Vibe 50s Telecaster. Both really cool guitars. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the specs of each, then I'll compare and contrast, give some pros and cons, and then I'll have you listen to each of them in each of the pickup positions. So you can make up your own mind about which ones are right for you, which one is the right fit. I'll put links down below for each of these things, for each of these guitars, and I'm going to be playing them through my Blackstar amp. I'll put basically just from the amp to the guitar. So I'll put a link to the amp as well, so you can check that out if you like the sound out of that. If you like this video, why don't you go ahead and click the like button, and if you haven't yet, you should really subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's get on with the comparison and the sound. Okay, let's talk about the stats or the specs on the Affinity first. Now the Affinity runs at about $229 US currently. That's November 25, 2020. All right, so that's what we're dealing with here. Not a heck of a lot of money to pay for a guitar. It's not the cheapest, but it's really not very expensive. So what do you get for that? Well, you get a basic telly, okay? So this is truly a basic telly, and that's one of the things I love about it. You know, 2 pickups, 3-position switch, 21 frets, got a telly-shaped body, got the Fender headstock, almost like a standard telly headstock. It's really nice, you know, you basically get that. So that's the basics, and we won't go too much over that. Let's talk a little bit about what are the more detailed specs. So let's talk about the body first. One of the differences of the body with the Affinity is that it's a little bit thinner. Because of that, the Affinities tend to be a little bit on the light side. Now this is on the heavy side of light, clocks in around 7.5 pounds, but I have another one that's around 6.5. So it varies quite a bit, but you should expect it to be on the light side of Telecasters. This one has a really beautiful finish, I think. Butterscotch, blonde, and they come in a lot of different finishes, which is one of the strengths of the Affinities. You can get an orange one, you can get a red one, you can get a green one, you can get a silver one, you can get a black one, a white one, or a butterscotch one. So lots of different choices there. The neck. Now one of the things I like the most about these guitars are the necks. This has a satin feel neck. It's a very, very light finish on both the back and the front. It's a lot of people, for this, it's a deal breaker, but for me, I don't even notice. It's a 40.6 millimeter spacing on the neck at the nut. It's a little bit tighter than the normal Fender 42 millimeter, but I didn't notice. Pickups are ceramic, and we'll hear them later. Everything else is pretty much standard. I mean, the only 2 things I'd like to mention are, number one, yeah, it comes with the bargain basement tuners. Let's see if I can get that in focus. There we go. They are bargain basement tuners. They get the job done. Yes, it has a plastic nut, and you may get lucky on this. I did not. This one has a top loader bridge. Actually, it don't really matter. It doesn't really matter to me if it has a top loader or string through body. But most Telecasters have the string through body bridge, but this has the 6-saddle top loader bridge. For people who really don't want that, that's a negative. Other than that, it's pretty much standard Fender. 9.5-inch radius on the neck. It's a C profile, which is pretty standard. Let's just check out what it's going to sound like, but first let's look at the specs on the Classic Vibe. Okay, well let's talk about the specs for the Classic Vibe. First of all, the most important spec, this will run you $399 as of November 25th, 2020. So it's a little pricier than this is, about $170 more. So what do you get for that $170? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second, but the basics of what you get are, you get a basic telly, right? Same as before, 21 frets, 2 pickups, 3-position switch, volume and tone. That's that. Okay, but in my opinion, what you get is a real Telecaster for that. And I'll tell you what that means. It means a number of different things. But this has some other things that the Affinity doesn't have. Let's first talk about the body. This has a full-size body, happens to be made of pine, a very resonant wood. And this is, in fact, a very resonant guitar. You can really hear it when you play it unplugged, which I like a lot. So you get that, and in my opinion, the looks of this one are just better. You can see right there, it's much more transparent, so the wood grain really comes through. There's that vintage input jack too. You also get a vintage bridge. You see it's got the 3 saddles there, vintage bridge, and it's a string through bridge, or through the body bridge. So that's kind of standard Tele as it was and is. Tele has kept that with the string through body. Some of the Affinities have them, some of them don't. It's kind of a crapshoot which one you're going to get. So in my opinion, that's definitely something that's better. Keeping on the what's better, these are Alnico pickups. So in my opinion, you get a better sound out of this. You can be the judge. You can hear the difference between the two. Hopefully this mic will pick them up. But in my opinion, you get a better sounding set of pickups with these Alnicos. Another thing that you can see right off the bat is the tint on this neck is significantly different. It's also got the skunk stripe in the back, which I like. I think this is a really attractive looking neck. It's gloss instead of satin, which some people aren't going to like. I think it's okay though. It seems fine to me. 42 millimeter spacing, so it's the standard Fender instead of the 40.6 millimeter spacing here. 9.5 inch radius, so it doesn't have the vintage radius of 7.25 inches. This is a 9.5, sort of modern profile neck. This profile is a little bit thinner than is the Affinity, I found. So it's extremely, I find it's an extremely comfortable neck, especially if you like wrapping your thumb around and playing some of those Hendrixy type of things. It's nice that way. One cool thing, it's got a bone nut. I'm a sucker for a bone nut. I really like that. I think it's a great addition, and I think that's probably why it's so, one of the reasons why it's so resonant. But it's got a bone nut, which is good. Last and not least, some people are going to like this, some people aren't. It's got the Kluson style tuners. So these are vintage style tuners. Let me see if I can get those into focus and show you. There you go. There's the fronts, and here's the back. Yeah. Now I'm not a huge fan of these, and I might replace them. But if you want that vintage look, that's what they're going for here on this. So that's pretty much it. If we want to compare the two, they both will get the job done. They both act like Telecasters, but full-size body, thin body, Alnico pickups, ceramic pickups, guaranteed to be a string-through body, not always guaranteed to be a string-through body, and the color and transparency on the finish and the neck and the bone nut. That's basically the difference, and so that's what you're paying for to get this guitar. Let's take now a look at the sound, or listen to the sounds, and you can judge for yourself to see whether it's really worth it. For all of these sounds on this, I'm using my Blackstar HT5 MK2. For the clean channel, I'm not using any pedals, just the reverb off of the amp. And for the overdrive sounds, again, I'm just using the amp. There's no pedals on this at all. I want you to just hear the pure guitar sound. No post-processing either on this. All right, you can find a link for the Blackstar amp if you like that down below as well. All right, gang, well, there you have it, a comparison between these two guitars. I think they're both fantastic. One really for the beginner, the Squier Affinity, or for a second guitar or a beater guitar if you're an advanced player, the Squier Affinity Tele. And the other is the Squier Classic Vibe 1950s Tele, which I think is much more than just a beginner's guitar. You can use this throughout your career. This is just a fantastic guitar. All right, well, if you like this video, please click the like button. Why don't you subscribe? And don't forget, I put links to these down below. We'll see you on down the road.